A billion souls trapped forever are about to break free.
We want revenge!
Now, there's no limit to what they can do.
Get down!
Babylon 5 for the first time.
Mere movie event.
Fire!
Featuring Martin Sheen as Soul Hunter. River of Souls. Premieres
On YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Babylon 5 for the first time, not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I am the one who was.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I am the one who will be.
We're watching Babylon 5 for the first time for you, the one who is.
That's right. Jeff and I are two veteran Star Trek podcasters searching for the important sci-fi messages that Babylon 5 is delivering in its own unique way.
And since this is not a Star Trek podcast, to keep us on point, we play a game called the Rule of Three. This is a game that limits us to no more than 3 references to Star Trek per episode in total.
That's it. 3. Uno, dos, tres. No substitutions, exchanges, or refund.
And if we make one of those references, you're going to hear... All right, now, this part of the deal is we like our games, right? Well, at the end of every episode, one of the games we play is we make predictions about what the next episode is going to be, or in this case, the next movie is going to be. And this is the part where we stop to see if we got it right. So, Jeff, what did you think River of Souls was going to be about?
Well, I think we agreed this is definitely going to be Soul Hunters kind of an episode. And I thought this was going to be the origin story of Murder Soul Hunter from the eponymous episode. What did you think it was going to be about?
Soul Hunter. That was all I had. I had nothing else. Soul Hunter. In my head, literally a river of souls going through. I didn't understand that it was the Matrix in there, but, you know.
Right.
Well, Jeff, that was what you and I thought this episode was about. But for folks out there who may not have seen this movie in a while, and there's a good chance people listening to this show did not watch the movie prior to coming in here. Just understanding the reputation of this film. Or maybe somebody's never, ever seen the movie before at all. They're just hanging out with us because you and I are so cool. Why don't you take a few moments and remind the folks out there exactly what River of Souls was all about?
Have you ever realized that everything's chill on Babylon 5 until Sheridan and Garibaldi are around? Well, so is Captain Lockley, who has styled the Sheridan-Garibaldi effect after the Pauly effect, which I looked it up. It's a real thing. All the things go wrong when certain people are around, and with the two of them away, everyone's breathing a little bit easier on the station. That is, until Garibaldi shows up. He's here to question high-dollar projects to see if Hampton Edgar's Garibaldi Industries should continue funding them. He meets with a Dr. Bryson. No, not the one from the Leviathan DLC in Mass Effect 3, but a modern-day Indiana Jones that has made the find of a lifetime. A shiny bowling ball. It's even cooler than a motif golden jackal. He studies it on the station and finds life inside of it. Or at least the essence of life. The spirit of life. Or, if you would, the soul. And that's the one we're going to go with, because an actual soul hunter shows up. You know, the mystical and mysterious soul hunters that we've never actually seen before. Like, seriously, this is the first time. Also, I recently learned that I have a very welcome hole in my mind from around June of 2022. The Soul Hunter, in a very elusive manner, explains that the sphere doesn't just contain a soul, it contains all the souls of a long-dead civilization. And he's worried that, now that they're out, they're going to be really mad and coming for some vengeance. And he's explaining this to Lockley, and then a big energy kind of surge thing. They launch themselves at this elusive soul hunter, but Lockley, being a true hero, jumps in front of it, takes the brunt of the blow, knocking her out and flatlining her. She finds herself inside the soul sphere, looking at a beautiful vista and standing next to Dr. Franklin. Or more accurately, one of the Ralgans, who explains the soul hunters totally messed up. They weren't dying. No, they were evolving, and they screwed everything up. A whole bunch more soul hunters show up, and they are demanding the sphere, or they'll come get it themselves, and that apparently will be bad. The Ralgan souls, though, aren't going to stand for this. They get Bryson to take him down to the fusion reactor, and they're going to blow the whole thing up. Our soul hunter friend sacrifices himself, much like the Bartlett pair before canning, convincing the souls that he and his people are truly sorry for what happened. A truly selfless act, especially for one so young, at just 4,000 years old. Another soul hunter comes on board to get the sphere. When Lockley honors the other sacrifice, it says that this young person, this boy, has truly become the elusive man. Which lets us get to the real heart of the episode. The booming service industry in Brown Sector and the stifling impacts of the bureaucracy and regulation. It'd be one thing if this entrepreneur tried to hide the reality of his business with some fancy name like suites. You know, like how a hotel or motel puts suite in its name, but the rooms are barely even qualifying as rooms. Yeah, no suites here, not even a deck. He calls it exactly what it is. It's a holobrothel. Zach and Lockley flex the long arm of municipal regulations to try and shut this place down, but the law and those pesky rights that people have get in their way in the form of one of the smarmiest lawyers we've ever met. Inspired by Sheridan from last week, they end up just blowing the brothel up, apparently to save the station from some runaway souls or something. Either way, General Immunity saves their bacon. Lockley celebrates being on the winning side of serendipity. Brent, how did you enjoy your trip down a river of souls?
I got to tell you, I was very much bracing myself for this film.
Okay.
Because what I've heard, and I've seen this from so many different commenters, In the Beginning is the best movie. The best of the movies. And then everything kind of trails off from there. And it seems like the further we get away from In the Beginning, the worse they get.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some people say that they actually liked Third Space better than In the Beginning. But that's as far as that went. So I was really bracing myself for and I know you have this hole in your memory, but I do remember Soul Hunters. And I don't have a hole in my memory from that. And that was bad.
Yeah, it really was.
And I was like, if I'm right and this is Soul Hunters, I just don't know what is going to happen. So I say that just to set this up and say my expectation for this film was low. Jeff, I kind of enjoyed this movie.
Yeah,
I did. I had a lot of fun with it. It was cheesy. It was campy. Martin Sheen is a way better actor than what he put on tape in this particular episode or movie. Like, he was awful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Awful. On our Patreon page, when I uploaded the full version of the Brent Watches for River of Souls, I usually put these like quippy little taglines in the comment box. Like, I'm not doing a full like show note thing for it, right? Just a quippy little whatever. And mine said something to the effect this week was, wow, apparently Babylon 5 has now taken 2 really good actors and gave them the worst performances of their career. Yes, that is a Michael York Avalon reference for those out there wondering, because not trying to drag old stuff up, but there it is. And I like to poke the bear. So yeah, like Martin Sheen's performance was awful. The makeup was awful. Like, I mean, I've never seen a soul hunter on Botox before, but that's what Martin Sheen was. Like, he was just, but I loved Ian McShane. I loved his character and modern day Indiana Jones. Okay, maybe future day Indiana Jones. Jeff, I'm trying to correct you on that.
That was a Rush reference.
Oh, yeah, there you go. But anyway, that being said, this is like, I loved Lockley in this episode. I loved this is probably the best Lockley episode that we've had, and it came as a movie set 6 months after the close of Objects at Rest or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I loved Garibaldi. I loved seeing Garibaldi. You know what I loved? They found a reason to bring Garibaldi back to the station that had nothing to do with Sheridan and DeLynn, had nothing to do with his role as a former security guy. He is there in his full capacity as the leader, as the CEO of Edgar's Rice Hampton, whatever that name is, Industries. And it's a real legit reason why he would be there. Garibaldi was on his game with Ian McShane, and it felt like old Garibaldi to me in so many ways. Like, there were times where I loved it. When we went to Quark's bar, in the middle of this episode. Don't buzz. You already called yourself on that one.
I did.
I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Jeff, there was an episode. Oh, it was Grey 17, wasn't it? Where it was, we started talking about this on the YouTube thing. Like, it was so bad. I think I just had so much fun with it. You know what I mean?
Except Grey 17 was a good episode.
Yeah.
With some really bad in it.
Yeah. But it was like, okay. Like, for whatever reason, I was okay with it all. And here's the thing. I say it's so bad. I really don't know that it really was that bad. But I just found myself enjoying it. I think I enjoyed this movie more than I did Third Space. Because you know what this movie didn't have in it for me? I didn't get to minute 45 or 50 and be like, oh, God, just get to it. And they had 20 more minutes of dragging it out. Like, I never felt that in this particular film. So, again, this felt like an episode of TV to me. It did not feel like a movie. You know, Third Space felt like a two-parter episode. In the beginning, kind of had that movie feel. This one, just, you know, good episode of TV that, I don't know. Like, I was fine. Here's the thing. If this had actually been an episode or a two-part episode in the run of the show, I might be a little more, but like for just a one-off, sure, why not? Like, it's fine. Let me almost finish it up with this. The pluses outweighed the negatives to me, and I just enjoyed this episode or this movie more than I feel like I should have. Jeff, how about you?
Talk about this being a one-off episode. I'm going to compare this one to Grail. Grail was one with a kind of interesting but flimsy storyline, and David Warner, right? And he killed it. It was amazing.
Yep.
Slip this into that same space, kind of flimsy storyline, Martin Sheen, right? And then how great would that have been? Well, probably better than this. A couple things you said, though. I want to read my exact note. It's another almost single episode story stretched to 90 minutes. So you talked about Third Space having that 30-minute hole in it of just, this was such a slow plotting episode that just it's like it just wouldn't get to the point. It wasn't until minute 41 that Soul Hunter even showed up. Like almost the halfway mark was just this build. And some of the build. So here's the thing. Like, I'm with you. I thought this was a great and interesting idea for an episode. Like I'm going to hammer this through our entire conversation. This was not a movie. Should not have been a movie. The biggest thing this thing has going against it is it was at least twice as long as it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And because it was so long, it just brought up like so many ideas and cool things and just kind of let them hang. Like we'll talk about messages later, but the point of this movie was what makes you you. And like they asked that question early on, right? Ian McShane, Dr. Bryson, he's like, if I have this and you don't have your memories, does that mean I own you because I have your memories? And then we never touch on it again. And I'm like, that was so fascinating. That would have been so great. A lot of other really cool ideas in this one. Not a fan of this episode overall. That said, this is a great Lockley episode. Wild competence throughout. Yeah. With Bryson problem solving. She played against the attorney dude, and beat him at his own game. Like she solved the problem of like, Can I comment on that just for a second? Totally, yeah.
The way that Lockley resolved the whole issue with the lawyer felt very, very much in the vein of what we would have seen Sheridan and Sinclair do.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like Sinclair handled stuff in a different way than Sheridan did. Lockley handles stuff in a different way than either of those two guys. But there are times when the captain gets real wily and pulls a sneaky fast one that you're just like, oh. And she was right there in that vein of those three people that I don't think we've really ever seen from anybody else.
Also, Lockley had a twisty bendy fun straw and ate disgusting looking food. And like I don't know, there's so many aspects of this that were great Lockley episodes. I'm not going to talk about Hollow Lockley. I think that's apparent in and of itself, all the things. But that included great Lockley episode.
honestly, I could have done without the hollow Lockley thing. Like, sure, fun eye candy for a 20-something or 17-year-old kid back in the 90s or whatever. But in that particular plot point right there, Jeff, I'm sorry, am I walking on you?
No, I've said what I need to say. So
that particular plot point and felt so lifted right out of Deep Space Nine. If you remember the episode where Quark was trying to capture the video of Kira.
But the very first time Jeffrey Combs was in a Star Trek episode, in Star Trek, actually.
That's true. That is true. And I can picture the makeup he had on for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was that same plot, except he actually like got it and we saw it and was using it. You know, I would have been more happy if she had either it didn't work or she just tore some stuff up because of it. Like, go to town, baby. Yeah, like, do it.
To add to that, literally it showed her in that, and she looked at it and was like, oh, and Garibaldi was like, apparently it's popular with the ladies. Like, that's great. Being totally Garibaldi, just kind of egging her on. But as soon as that was done, it changed back into her Earth Force uniform and walked off to do that. So why did it have to be that? You know, I think that story was fine with just hollow people going around. You didn't have to pull a Lockley in and make it weird.
Yeah, didn't have to do that one.
Talking about the hollow brothel, well, it's not a reference necessarily if it's just a character. Did you recognize the proprietor of the hollow brothel?
He felt familiar, but I wasn't able to place him. Who is he?
Alamarine!
No, he's not.
He's the move along home guy. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Everything in this movie orbits around Deep Space Nine. Like, literally everything. But I have a question, 2 questions on here.
Okay.
One says, is this the episode that we talk and have the conversation about AI art and deep fake porn? And the other question I have on here is, do we have the conversation about sex work and if it's something that should be shut down or something that should be regulated? Or do we just acknowledge those are things this episode brought up and move on? Stand by. We'll be right back. Are you ready to take your Babylon 5 for the first time experience to the next level? With our exclusive Patreon, you'll get access to all kinds of cool stuff that you can only find there. Our recording notes, unedited reaction videos, an exclusive Discord community. And you can even be listed as a producer of the show. Plus, we even offer exclusive meet and greets and hangouts. You won't find this kind of experience anywhere else. Get all these amazing benefits, plus the opportunity to interact with other fans from around the world. It's being part of a huge community where everyone shares the same appreciation for Babylon 5. Subscribe at patreon.com/Babylon5First. That's the number 5 and the word first to get access to these incredible benefits. That's patreon.com/Babylon5First. We can't wait to see you there.
Well, I think it's fine to give our personal opinions on the whole situation. And here's mine. And I'm speaking from my seat as someone from the deep south and a person of faith and all this sort of stuff. I'm going to answer the second one first about sex work. Consenting adults are consenting adults and they should be able to do what they want. I would be more for it being regulated for safety purposes and taxing. I mean, look, what happens when you legalize weed? Start taxing it and all of a sudden you get rid of income tax.
Billions of dollars of revenue.
Regulate it, make it safe, and consenting adults be consenting adults. And don't make it, let it be. Sorry if that offends anybody's senses of morality out there. I'm not here to legislate or pound my morality into somebody else.
Not today at least.
Not today at least. No. As far as the AI and the deepfake imagery, deepfake imagery is incredibly dangerous and should be outlawed. If you're being deepfaked and it's not your own, if it's not your permission, think about how many people have gone to jail based on video evidence of themselves doing something.
Yeah.
If you're now telling me that it's possible to deep fake that in such a way that I can't tell the difference whether or not that's me or not, I've heard deep fake voices as well. Voice generators that change people's voices. You're going to do all of that. And it's super scary that that's not me. And by the way, I now have the greatest defense in the world. That's not me. That must be deep fake. They have that technology. All I got to do is cast a shadow of a doubt, right?
Uh-huh.
Or not shadow of doubt, reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Not me. Mm-mm. So yeah, I don't like that. As far as AI art, that's so hard. I'm gonna my opinion on that is I give it the Taylor Swift treatment.
Okay.
Are you familiar with what happened with Taylor Swift and her music as far as owning the rights and stuff like that?
The biggest badass move I think any recording artist has almost ever made.
Yeah.
And I don't like Taylor Swift. I'm not a fan. This though, incredible.
Yeah. The short version of that, the rights for her music went up for sale. She wanted to purchase it. It got snaked away from her by somebody else that she doesn't even like. And so she went in, and because she owns the songwriting credit, just not the recording credit. So she went in and literally re-recorded. Do you know how expensive it is to record an album? Literally from scratch, re-recorded all of her earlier albums. I think she did like 10 of them or something like that before this happened. Like crazy the amount of boyfriends that girl's been through. Just joking. But she went in, and so now you have these the original recordings, and then you have this one that's set up as Taylor's version. When you're out there when someone is out there going to pick up a Taylor Swift song, I would always encourage that person, find the Taylor version and listen to that one. Don't listen to the other.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope when people go to put her music in their films and they call for the rights that they get the Taylor's version, not the original version. Because I think it's right that we honor and we support the artists that are actually doing stuff. You want to use the AI thing, fine. But at the same time, you should cognitively go do the art, get it from an actual artist who can actually make it even better than the AI. It's one of those, I kind of got to leave it up to the people, but I think they should get it from the artist.
I think the AI art one, even with music, is so complicated and hard. Who's to say? I mean, look, never mind. I was going to make a whole Star Trek thing. I'm not going to use up the last reference here, but art, there's no reason to believe art cannot be created by an artificial intelligence that is original. Because like as a musician, here's the thing, I'm a musician. Well, I'm a drummer, hang out with musicians, but my original work is the amalgamation of all my influences, right? So in a sense, I am an intelligence that has gone and pulled all of these other artists and their thing, pulled it together and created something that is now mine and unique, even though it's also all of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what AI art does, right? So, I don't know. It's weird. But I'll also say my personal view is if I'm going to buy an AI thing or a human thing, buy the human thing, like every time.
Yeah.
But with the music, it's so, I don't know, it's just complicated. There are a lot of recording artists. I think John Legend was one of the big ones who, but basically sold the rights to their voice, not their music, but their voice. And so now through YouTube, like you can write a song through AI. Let me rephrase that. You can have AI generate a song and have John Legend, I could be wrong, it might not be John Legend, but have that actual artist's voice be the one that does it. I think the key point through all of this, and even in the Taylor Swift thing, is the artist is still involved, right? Even though Taylor's stuff got sold to someone she didn't like, that's because of the original agreement and who actually got to make the sale decision and all the things there. She was still involved in the whole thing, was able to make choices around it. Where it crosses the line is when the person has no involvement, no consent. Just here's this song, here's this video, here's this image of you, and you weren't even a part of it. And I think that's where we get into the deep fakes, and especially like porn that's created from deep fakes, where there's an argument to be made that, hey, like we're not objectifying, like we're not going out and having a woman or a man and objectifying them as a person. It's not even real. And, like now I don't have to look at this other person and whatever, I can victimlessly see what I want to see. The thing is, it's not, in my opinion, it's not victimless. Like if I saw a thing out there using my likeness, which if it's very unlikely, but like I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was one of your kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh my God. It's feelings there for sure.
It is such a violation of a personhood to use that.
It's exactly what it is.
And you're right. A kid, even myself, my wife, my whatever, like, no, you're not gonna do that. Now, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Good point, Jeff. Good point. I agree.
And on the sex work, couldn't agree with you more. Like, in my opinion, one of the primary problems with sex work is that today, because it all happens under the covers, as it were, it's where so much human trafficking occurs and why so much of it exists. And so if you bring that more to the surface, it's regulated, it's taxed, things like that. Not only does it make it more difficult for human trafficking to happen, but also, all the health components around your sexuality then have a level of, there's testing and there's stuff going on and regulation that happens. So I appreciated this film just for even introducing this, as a thing. And I kind of liked the idea of Zach and Lockley coming in and being like, no, we got to shut this down. This isn't okay. And it was a little tricky legal stuff they were playing, but like it's entertainment. Like, I have an entertainment license and this is just entertainment. That's all I'm doing. What's wrong? I'm not breaking any rules here. If I were Zach, which would be awesome. Like, Zach's great. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say anything about having a brothel. I would have only focused on those little suits that they had. And hey, is it licensed? Is it cleared? Is it inspected? Is it whatever?
Is it sanitized? Is it
right? Go the OSHA route, basically, and hit them with that. But they brought up the question of, is it okay to have a brothel on here? And it's like, that's a losing fight, I think.
But see, okay, but that's a great comment though, Jeff, on particularly small town America. What is how far is a community allowed to go to shape the community that they want to have? Is a community allowed, let's just say brothels are legal all across our great country here. Let's just say they are, right? Is it okay for a small town to go, we don't want that in our town? Or do they have to allow it? Like, do they get to legislate that sort of shaping of their community? And that's an interesting thought process, man.
I think this is where I can play capitalist here and say, absolutely, they have a say in it. They don't like it, don't patronize it. They're only in business because people are going there and giving them money. If people don't want it to be there, why don't they just don't shop there, right? Like, we see all the restaurants in our towns open up and go away, right? I think every bigger town has that one building that like has a new owner every 3 months. Like, nothing can survive in that one building. No one goes there. It dies on its own. Why do we have to go in and we have to go in and legislate if people are being harmed or property is being destroyed? If you're regulating brothels, then is anyone getting harmed? I don't think so.
So yeah, there's all that. I actually didn't think about this bringing those kind of questions up, but I think that's a very interesting idea. Here's the thing though. What did you think about how I'm going to call him Quark. I don't even know what his name was. I called him Quark. How did Quark handle that? I thought he did it exactly like he should have.
Yeah, I agree.
Until he got his lawyer involved, and then it's a money grab. He was only looking for a settlement. He never actually wanted to do it. He just wanted the money. Like, that's why I was like, dude, like, I get it. That's what you are, but that's what you do.
I thought he was perfect. And the lawyer was fine. He was an archetype. He was supposed to be disgusting and all those things. He reminded me, I don't know if you ever saw, it's on Netflix, but there's a show called Loudermilk that is like a 3-season thing. And it's a story of the people part of this group. And there's one guy who was an attorney who was this guy, basically, of like, oh, you have this one little tiny complaint. Well, I'm going to ramp it all the way up here and freak out and ask for all this extra stuff. And this guy was a good baseline for that. So yeah, he was ridiculous and exactly what he was supposed to be. I thought of that whole dynamic in terms of in Third Space, where we had Lita being the Psycor person for the two brothers, like, do you cheated on my wife? Which I did not enjoy that scene very much. You thought it was great.
I thought it was funny. I did.
I feel like this was good. It didn't serve the story that much. Like, you know, it just added some time or whatever. It made that thermal grenade that Lockley threw have a little more weight to it.
You're talking about the whole hollow brothel thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was, hey, we need 20 minutes of B story.
We need 20 minutes of B story, and we need a mechanism for these souls to be seen. How about a hologram? How are we going to get holograms in here?
Yeah.
Sex work. That's how.
There you go.
You talked about Ian McShane, Dr. Bryson. Dude, he was so good in this role.
I liked him in this one. I really did. I liked him a whole lot. He was, and this was before Ian McShane got really big, I think.
Well, to be fair, I didn't know who he was until people on our Discord were like, how did you not recognize Ian McShane? I'm like, I still don't know who he is, but
oh no,
he's a great actor.
Yes, he is. Dude, he's in, go look up some of the stuff, but his work in Deadwood, so good.
That's everybody was pointing. I've never seen Deadwood.
So good, you know, and he's one of those, like, you recognize him from lots of other things he's been in, and you just go, oh, and then you see him in Deadwood and you're like, oh, he's a great actor. He's consistently gotten good work and been good at what he does, and, you know, managed to land a series at one point.
He made a huge mistake, though, in the beginning of this whole thing. I mean, and he should have known this, because I'm going to imagine Indiana Jones is canonically in Babylon 5.
Mm-hmm.
But when he took that sphere, where was the bag of sand, man? That's why everything went south.
I was waiting. I had that same thought. Expect like a big boulder ball to come rolling down behind him.
But I think what was interesting to me with that sphere, the bowling ball thing, was I was always under the impression with the souls that the soul hunters took that because yes, I have a hole in my mind, but I also remember a couple things. But he had like those spheres, like the little spheres, and they were like the people. So I always pictured them as like individual things. Yeah. And when they first busted into the chamber, that's what it looked like. It was lining the walls were just those things.
It was the Matrix. They were plugged into the Matrix is what that looked like.
And I think that's one of my questions is, like, it's interesting they put this whole civilization into one sphere, but Martin Sheen said that we put them in these whisper chambers so they can talk to each other. They can communicate.
Yeah. And
then Lockley went on and on about how inhumane, how cruel that is. I don't know that I agree with her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like one of the story beats they really tried to hit on this was one we've had in every movie so far, and that's our arrogance and hubris. And the soul hunters are so arrogant, they just think they're doing the right thing. But it turns out we're so cruel. Are you? I mean, yeah, you want to let the souls go wherever they need to go. That's the natural order of things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like they're just locking them away and they're living in solitary. They can talk to each other, you know, or whatever. And is that enough?
Well, you remember in the episode, they were also talking to the soul hunter guy.
So the thing started off with Bryson going after Garibaldi, you know, on who are you really? Right? Are you what I see, or are you what's inside? Well, the people die or are plucked at evolution and put into these bowling balls or these whatever things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're left in these whisper chambers. And Lockley's like, they don't get to do anything. They're unable to touch or be touched. And I was just struck during that whole conversation. I was just like, isn't our being more than that, though? Aren't we more than what we do? Aren't we more than just being able to touch other people? I mean, as Jeff, as social justice warrior, I have to say, like, her argument was very ableist. And, like, there are humans here today that cannot touch or be touched. Are they not, you know, living a good life according to Captain Lockley here? Like,
I got to be honest, I was not fully understanding why they were being tortured. Just that they were being tortured, you know, and by torture, I use that in a very loose sense of the word. Like, that their existence felt like torture. Like, it almost at some point seemed like they were in pain or something of that nature. But I still think that this film, while this film really sought to, like, fill in a lot of the soul hunter stuff, it still left a lot to be desired and a lot of questions out there. It didn't really answer a ton. So that was one of those things that I think I just sort of accepted what the show was saying and moved on and didn't think a ton about. But I will tell you, just to go into this, because you're talking about they were about to evolve, and we took the whole thing. The way that Lockley described that, and the way that they were describing that, talking about this evolving into an energy, leaving the physical body behind and becoming more than, I got to tell you, Jeff, as a person of faith, that's what I think happens when you die. Like now. And it doesn't require waiting millions of years for the whole society to just sort of go together. That sounds like some cult stuff to me, right? You know? But
put on your Nikes and drink some Kool-Aid.
Right. But like the way that you describe that right now is kind of where I think things happen when you die. Like you call it evolution. I just call it the soul leaving the body, going to the next plane. I don't know that that's evolution. You know, maybe it is, maybe not. I don't know, but it didn't seem all that bad, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, you ever watch the show Ghosts?
A couple times. I've been away.
On CBS or BBC. You ever watch it? If you've not watched it, you should watch it. It's so funny. It's so good. It's so good. That should be a watch video. Anyway.
That's a good idea.
The whole bit of that is there, most people, when they die, their soul goes beyond, or as they say, gets sucked off, because it's only a few who are left behind, who are tethered. And while certainly they're not tortured, it's not like the greatest existence ever either, you know? So there, to go to the tortured world just is a little overarching. But Jeff, I want to ask you about the intent of the soul hunters themselves. Like, you're absolutely right. Why are they able to contain the entire culture into this one bowling ball? Like, because I thought it would just be these orbs, right? Like, but regardless, but what about the soul hunters in general coming and grabbing their essence the moment before death, they say, and then preserving that essence? And the question that I have to have is, okay, to what end? Like, why?
Yeah.
And I still don't understand the why. Like, wasn't it better to keep them here? Maybe. Why? What are we doing with it? Apparently nothing.
We got to see the first ones in action, right? You know, during the Battle of Corian 6 and stuff. And what we know is they became these massive civilizations of culture and technology and all this stuff.
Yeah.
If during the Shadow conflict, the Shadow of Orlon conflict, the Soul Hunters showed up and they're like, hey, listen, so we went into a whisper chamber with the greatest battle strategists of all time. 10, 15, 100,000, whatever years worth of them. And we gathered the best thing, and here's what we think. If there was a thing going on and they created poetry or art or architecture that was just this beautiful, then it makes complete sense. Not only does your essence live on, but we're gonna make it part of something bigger and transcend time itself.
It's gonna be able to help the galaxy continue, because that, and by the way, that's why we're getting the leaders and the artists and these people. We want the best of the best, so that, like, that makes sense to me.
Exactly. Instead of having a couple of first ones civilizations, you have a first ones galaxy.
Yeah.
Like, that's where real unity comes. We can create real art and culture and technology across all races, everything. That would be amazing. But instead, apparently, they sit in these caves with a soul hunter who kind of listens to them.
Mm-hmm.
Using these railguns and the big bowling ball is not a great example, because that's not what they do with it. The other ones were actually dying, and they put them in orbs and a thing. These guys weren't dying. Like, it's the exception. And they're trying to describe their standard by the exception, and I just don't buy it.
It's an interesting thing, because even the whole idea of soul hunter forces the acknowledgement of an essence, of a soul, of a spirit, of a, call it whatever you want. Let's face it, it's really the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Oh, no, it's not. It's the same thing. Like, whatever you call it, fine. And I got to tell you what I didn't like. And this really was like, Soul Hunters, he's 4,000 years young. And all these, and soldiers just live forever. Okay, so are they stealing life energy from these guys? Is that why they do it? Because now we're getting into Tangled and Mother Gothel from Rapunzel's story in Disney. Like, why? What's going on here, guys?
And if they're that old, do they have souls of great Vorlons, of great Loriens? Like,
does it make them better? Apparently not, because that one soul hunter dude was nuts.
Yeah, he lost it.
Which, by the way, what if the reason why he was nuts was because he captured a soul that was nuts? Mm-hmm. And it like, and when you do that, it incorporates into your thing. And maybe he's looking for Ducat or some of these other folks out there trying to purge that from his soul or whatever. But you know what it reminds me of if they were to do it that way. Now here you and I are talking about if they did it a different way than what they actually did in the show, than what JMS actually wrote in the show.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about reminds me of what I understand is it Buddhist or Hindu? Basically it's the idea, like, when you die, your spirit, your soul, your essence, your whatever kind of goes and joins the big bubble of souls up there. And like, it's like you're adding to you're rejoining the collective. You're adding back and becoming like just this great, I don't know, aluminum foil ball of souls, of essence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just makes you, should I burn it? No, I'm not going to.
I don't have it anymore, I'm going to say.
Okay. Or it's like in DS9, the changelings coming home and adding back to the Great Lake.
Great Link.
That's what I meant. That's what I said.
That's what I heard. Totally heard.
Yeah,
that.
Right. But something of that nature with the Soul Hunters, it just, I don't know.
And also that points to Minbari. That's Minbari religion. We are all the universe. We're all, manifestations of the universe trying to figure it out. And yeah, that lines up with that as well.
It would line up. To go back to the age thing though, like I was really put off by the way Martin Sheen acted Soul Hunter, particularly when we first saw him on screen. Mm-hmm. By the time we got to the end of the film, he was much more loose. He was much more whatever. And I didn't know if that was something that was done on purpose or if that was something that he got into the character and he just stopped trying to be weird and became a little bit more normal. From what I have read in the comments, and I don't usually pull these in, but it just made a lot of sense to me. And I don't know if you knew this or not, Jeff. That was a deliberate choice that they made of Soul Hunter doesn't know English. And so him coming in, he was still kind of learning how to speak the language a little bit, but they learn really, really fast. So he got more fluid with it as time in the film went on. And I was like, yeah, because it really made Martin Sheen's performance look awful to me.
Yep.
Like it was like, how is this the guy?
When he walked out on screen, I said, I had no idea who he was or anything. I made the comment, oh, look, they got a dime store Martin Sheen. And then as he talked more, I'm like, oh my God, it actually is Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
What is he doing? Like, this is so bad. It's horrible. And like in the timeline of things, he was either filming The West Wing at the same time or about to film The West Wing, which is peak Martin Sheen. Like in the story of West Wing, the production of it, President Bartlett was just supposed to be kind of a over here character, and Martin Sheen brought so much to it. He became the character and the point of the show, and it's just incredible. Didn't see that here at all. I had that thought when I watched it the second time for notes was, oh, okay, so he's getting comfortable, learning the language, figuring out the culture here on the ship, on the station a little bit. I get it. But they never said anything about that. They just had him act weird and then act differently at different points. And I'm just like, that introduction of him honestly ruined him for the whole rest of the episode for me.
Well, and not just the introduction, but the kind of the way we said goodbye to him, like him at the end, even when he was more fluid with English, like that big monologue he had at the end, that one-sided monologue where he was just, it was so long and had no energy and my note was, this is a snooze fest. Oh my word, and he gets sucked into the thing. And his whole solution to them, correct me if I'm wrong, is, yeah, I'm going to go in here and what's basically going to happen is we're going to let you guys go, but it's like, we'll do like a little bit at a time for whatever reason, probably not to like flood whatever but who who's to say they're going to continue to release a few at a time?
Exactly. And why? It was the dumbest thing ever. Like, I couldn't agree more. That monologue was long and boring, but had amazing words in it. We assumed. Is this the price of our arrogance? Oh, it was great.
Now,
and then
take that same words and put Andreas Kasutlis saying those words.
Right?
Oh, my God.
We'd be in tears on the phone. Oh, my God, you're right. It's so... Instead, it's like, just finish, just get to the end. Blow up the reactor at this point. I don't even care. Just make it stop. But then he kept going, and that whole thing. Hey, well, in time, eventually, we'll kind of get you out a little bit. What? Don't even say that. Don't just be like, hey, look, we screwed up. I'm so sorry. I'm going to come and hang out with you to show you that we've learned and we're better. And then they're done. Like, just don't make up a stupid thing that's fake and would actually, if I was one of these Ralgans and they said, hey, eventually, over time, sort of, maybe we'll find some way to let some of you out. That's when I would blow up the reactor. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, you're not taking me seriously. You suck. I do love, though, the end of the whole thing, when other Soul Hunter shows up with even worse makeup than Martin Sheen's. Mm-hmm. And Lockley's like, oh, my God, this is such a badass moment for her. She's like, you will honor his sacrifice, or the hunters will become the hunted. Yes. You tell him. So good.
So I have a question.
Okay.
And I need to pull on your one who was. I'm pretty sure in this film that Soul Hunter dude, Martin Sheen Soul Hunter, said that the Minbari stopped them from getting Ducat's soul.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the whole thing in Soul Hunter was they got Ducat's soul, and Delenn was like, give it back. Give it back. Am I misremembering that?
You are, if I remember correctly. And it's a thing I thought is either in the beginning or at some point I thought they were actually going to show it. But if I remember right, like the Minbari physically blocked him. Like they saw the Soul Hunter coming and they're like, no, you do not touch Ducat. So he wasn't able, and then Ducat died and the soul left him. And so like basically he watched the soul escape and he couldn't get it. And that's what drove him to be Murder Soul Hunter. Maybe that's what I thought we were going to see in this, actually. I was hoping we'd see that.
I really wanted that Soul Hunter back. I really did. Like, actually, I wanted more than one Soul Hunter. I wanted a bunch of Soul Hunters.
I wanted none. But because we got Soul Hunters, I wanted more. And I wanted stuff that made more sense about them. To your earlier point, we have an understanding of the timeline of Babylon 5 with the ancient ones, the first ones, and, kind of the cycle of everything. These guys don't fit into that in any way. It's almost like the Vendrizi, right? So you got these Vendrizi, those things, the parasites that would, were friendly parasites that had millennia of knowledge saved in them. How does that line up? And I'll say it again. If we're having this existential moment of galactic blow up or not at the Battle of Coriana 6, where are the Vendrizi with all this knowledge? Where are the Soul Hunters with all these essences and spirits and souls? Where are these people that have all the answers? If they're not there, what's the point of them even being around? Or is that the point? Like, you can be a hermit and a mystic up on the top of the mountain, but if you're not actually down in the stuff, does it matter that you're even doing that? I am digging hard for some meaning here.
Well, speaking of meaning, Jeff, I think we're at that spot. Unless you have something else, I really think we're at that spot where we turn the corner and we do the analytical thing. We do that thing we do as Star Trek podcasters where we overanalyze everything and try to put meanings to it that really may not even be there in the first place, but we're going to pull them out anyway. Jeff, that's going to fall to you this week. What kind of sci-fi messages did you pull out of River of Souls?
I pulled out so many of them. So many. But little tiny nuggets of so many of them. I'll start with the end here, in that there was not an overarching message in here other than asking that great question I said earlier. What makes you you? But I think that's a thing that you could sit and meditate on for generations and not really figure out. It's a great thing to ponder. But in this film, we got the theme that we've gotten through In the Beginning, Third Space. Is this the price of our arrogance? He asked. We get that just that confidence, that hubris that, causes you to make blind mistakes. What I liked about this one, though, is they had that idea that they knew what was best, no matter what. They felt that they were doing something benevolent, but what they were doing is causing untold suffering, at least for the Ralgans. it really made me consider, we look at holding up a mirror to society as one of our questions in doing the White Star rating. And it made me think about when we interject ourselves, either personally or nationally, politically or whatever, into other people's or other cultures' business. Like we go in, you can look at so many points in history where someone, a colonizer, a missionary, someone went into some other culture because they knew what was best for this other culture. And here we are, where, for example, the single most celebrated holiday in the entire world is not Christmas, but independence from the British. More countries celebrate that than any other holiday because they knew it was best for everybody. This even got reflected in the holobrothel story when Zach was talking about the deep fake thing. Did these people ever consent to this, or are you just grabbing it because you think you know what's best and what people really need? That was the biggest thing I got out of this. Some other ones that I got. One line.
Hold on, Jeff. That is one of the biggest pieces, I think, to this whole movie, film, extended episode, whatever we want to call it. And that is a message. That is something that I see talked about time and time again in sci-fi. It's why sci-fi messages work, because you can analyze the culture of another and ask the question, is it morally good, morally right, or do we have the right to apply our morals to that culture? In this case, if we take the show for what it says happened, even though it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, they stopped a culture that was about to collectively evolve because they thought they were about to die. And they were just trying to help. And instead they became the villains. Didn't even know that they were the villains.
No, they thought that to the moment of that sphere being stolen, they thought they were heroes.
And like, give us the soul, give us the sphere back. Why? Because we're preserving that thing. Okay, what about zoos? Don't we do this whole thing where we grab animals and we're keeping them in here, but they're healthy and they're getting all the medical care they need and this, that, and the other, and we're helping them. And if somebody tries to come steal an animal from a zoo, some stuff's going to go down.
Yeah.
That, I think, is an extreme example because I'm a fan of zoos. I think they're generally good for society and for the animals in general. Now, I'm not a behind the scenes person, but whatever. But I love that as a question mark. And this did to me the good sci-fi work of it showed you both sides. It did, I wish it would have discussed it a little bit more, but it did show you both sides. It discussed both sides of it, and it didn't give you an answer as to what was right or wrong. It just says you now get to chew on that as a viewer, as a person, as a human.
Well, I think it did give you a bit of an answer when Martin Sheen sacrificed himself.
See, I don't think he was right about that, though.
Right. So that begs the other question of, and we've talked about this in other episodes. Hey, so we screwed up and we want to make right on it. How? How do you do that? Not like this, right? Not the way he did it. And we can look at so many examples, even in real life. We've talked about slavery and reparations. You can look at the decolonization movement that's happening in today's world. It's like all of those are great sentiments. Are they really going to fix the thing though? Or has the damage, whole other conversation. But I think the one thing that Martin Sheen did in here was not helpful, other than the story told us it was.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. So Martin Sheen has become enlightened to the crap that his people have been doing. So he's going to be the one who goes and dies and is not an influence with his people now? That
ties directly into one of the other messages I got out of this one was he said a thing to Lockley of, I wish they, me and the other soul hunters, I wish they could talk to you like I have, gotten to know you. He saw the error of their ways because he talked to someone. Like, I think we've said that's the sci-fi message. When you communicate, when you find connection.
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff. You and I have really made this thing to turn this corner from being Star Trek to sci-fi. That's the Star Trek message. That is quintessential. The Star Trek is we got to talk it out. We learn from each other. We get on the same, we embrace our differences and we talk it out. We don't fight it out. That's That's quintessentially the Star Trek side, my friend.
Well, Star Trek is the paragon of that message, but it shows up in so many different places.
So many. You know why? Because it's right.
Yeah, it's the thing to do. And to your point, then he goes and dies before he talks to any of the other soul hunters.
And he takes all that with him.
There was a line that I thought was interesting that they did kind of some stuff with, but they didn't make the point. But he says there is strength enough in one soul to change the universe. Imagine their strength if they all came together.
They could all focus on the same goal. That was the message I pulled out of this whole thing.
Because that's exactly what the Ralgans did. They focused on this one thing. They almost destroyed a station. They changed the heart and soul of a soul hunter. They did all these different amazing things because even split, they became singularly focused on a thing. But my favorite part of that whole thing, though, is the first part. There is strength enough in one soul to change the universe. Yes, this movie took us down the path of them coming together and being focused. And I believe that is the ultimate goal of life, is for us to come together in a singular form and cause. Kind of, you're saying, becoming the universe as it was. And I get super woo-woo on my visions around that. I won't do that here, but I think that's the ultimate goal. But for a sci-fi message to know that one single soul can change the universe, and we can look back and look at so many instances of that being true, whether it's in our lives in reality, in Star Trek, in Babylon 5, in Stargate, all the different properties. Shoot, in the Alien franchise, right? One single soul. Look at what David did. There's so much that it can do. And I found that, to me, to be the most uplifting and hopeful message in the whole thing. Yeah.
If we could flip this on the other side, though, what did one soul hunter do when he came to Babylon 5?
Well, yeah. So the first time, both times they almost destroyed the station.
Okay. There's enough strength in just one soul to change the universe. What happened when all the soul hunters collectively came together and focused their energy on getting that big bowling ball back? It's the same thing, just on the other side.
Yeah.
There's enough energy in one who can really mess some stuff up. Imagine what happens if the whole group comes together. Whoa. And that was the threat at one point. We're going to take you out if you don't give us the bowling ball back.
Exactly. And so, Brent, I think with all of that, because there's little pieces and threads and salt and pepper and shotgun and stuff all through this, but there is that through line that together we can do more, we can be powerful. And when we don't decide what's best for others, things go a lot better. I really want to rate this very, very high on the White Stars, but I think it was very broken in how it gave. In fact, part of our rating is how Babylon 5 was the delivery of the message. And Brent, this wasn't necessarily very good Babylon 5. So with that, I'm going to give this one 3.5 White Stars.
That's a lot more than I think.
Really?
That's a lot more than I feel like it should have gotten, to be honest with you. Yeah.
No, I feel like the messages are super strong. It's just their delivery was.
No, okay. All right. 3.5. That's where he goes.
And that makes me curious.
Yeah.
That's where I thought the messages were. Where do you think this one, Brent? You get to rank this movie. We're creating the absolute 100% definitive, immutable ranking of the Babylon 5 movies. Currently, our top 3 is in top space is Third Space. In the Beginning takes number 2. The Gathering is in number 3. Brent, where do you put River of Souls?
So what's number 1?
Third Space. First Space is Third Space.
Interesting. Okay. While I stand by my opening thoughts on this episode, I think that I enjoyed my watch of this episode perhaps even more than I did for Third Space, just because for me, I didn't have that big lull. Yes, there was some low energy. Yes, there was some this. When you think about this and you overanalyze it, you pick this one apart, it just doesn't hold up. I think that is perhaps why, or that's one of the reasons why this movie doesn't enjoy a huge bump with the fandom. because just judging based on the comments and reactions of people I've heard out there, this isn't exactly a well-loved movie. Maybe it's not a hated movie, but it's not well-loved, you know? So, and I would agree with that, because I'll be honest, after talking about it with you and picking it apart, it just doesn't hold up. Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my watch. I only did one watch, though. I didn't do two.
Oh, okay.
Like, and that might have changed some things for me as well. But I enjoyed it, but it just doesn't hold up. It's Third Space in the beginning and then The Gathering. Mm-hmm. This is better than The Gathering, but it's not better than In the Beginning or Third Space. So this is going to be our new number 3.
That's the correct ranking.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
But that does it for River of Souls. The ship has sailed down the river. Next week, we're going to be watching A Call to Arms for the first time. We've never seen this before. We haven't read synopses. We might have seen some screenshots. I don't know, though. We're not watching ahead in any way, and we like to guess what the next episode or movie is going to be about. Brent, you get to go first. What do you think A Call to Arms is going to be about?
All right, so I want to clarify. I do not know what the plot of this episode or movie is about. What I am aware of is this episode sort of serves as the lead-in to Crusade, or almost like the pilot, I guess, to Crusade. Almost like that. So A Call to Arms, this has to be a new threat emerges. Sheridan is off, Delenn is off, they're off doing the alliance thing. But something is about to head up. I'm hoping Lockley is in this show. I don't know if Lockley is in Crusade, but I'm hoping that this is it. This has to be like a call to arms. You're summoning people to the station. You're rebuilding the team. That team that we saw, that B team at the end of Objects at Rest when they were flying away.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's like the next crew. I would love it if we saw that crew. I don't think we're going to. I don't think it's that crew. But this has to be the assembling of the crew that's going to take us in through Crusade, and the bringing people to the station, getting them there so that we can go into whatever this new threat is. That's what I got. How about you?
It'd be cool to see that new squad doing stuff. I have a very, very hopeful prediction that I'm 99% sure isn't correct, but I'm going to put it out there because I hope it is. Brent, this is going to be the Telepath War.
Oh.
There's finally going to be something happening telepath-wise, and a call to arms. We must rise up and remember to not remember Byron. Can't believe I said that out loud.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. I hope yours is better. I hope yours is more right than
I sure hope so. I don't think it's going to be, but, I can hope into one hand and watch the next episode in the other. And next week, we're going to find out exactly what it's going to be about. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us here for our discussion today. If you have not already, please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to us. Leave us a rating, review, do all the things that everyone asks you to do, but actually make a difference in people discovering the show. We want to grow and continue to grow our amazing community here, of which you are a part. And the best way you can possibly do that is to simply share this show, word of mouth. Let somebody know about Babylon 5 for the first time, who needs to see it for the first time, or just loves the show and wants to visit again. So with that, until next time.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, what's up, Brent?
Hey, you know what they say, don't you?
Another day, another dollar.
No, dude. No. Another day, another holla.
Man, get the hell out of here.
Initiating getting the hell out of here maneuver.
On YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts.
That is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What kind of a low budget gimpy ass show do we run over here, Jeff? Oh my gosh. That is literally, Jeff, I have known you for years. I have known you in other podcasts. That is the worst thing you have ever created. Oh my God.
It's beautiful though. It's so beautiful because